Welcome back to Did You Know, a podcast by Partner Veterinary. In this series, we explore all things veterinary medicine and all things partner. In each episode, we answer some of the most common questions that we are asked, from HR to emergencies and everything in between. If it happens at Partner, we will cover it. In this episode, we're joined by Miranda David, a registered veterinary technician from our Frederick team. Miranda pulls back the curtain on what it really takes to earn a Veterinary Technician Specialist designation in emergency and critical care. And trust us, it's more intense than you might think.
My name is Miranda David, and I am a registered veterinary technician here at Partner Veterinary Emergency and Specialty. And I have my bachelor's in veterinary technology, which allowed me to get my veterinary technician license.
How did you get started in the veterinary profession?
When I got married 10 years ago, I knew I wanted to get my bachelor's degree, and the small town in New York that my husband and I moved to shortly after getting married had one of the only 7 at the time bachelor's programs for veterinary technology. So I was like, I like animals, I'll give it a shot. I had no idea what it meant to be a vet tech. I went to my vet tech 101 class and promptly found out that I was in over my head and had no idea that that is a level of responsibility that I was about to be given. So I quickly started to volunteer at an animal hospital just to kind of get my feet wet, and I've been hooked ever since.
What brought you to Partner?
So I am very excited to be part of the Partner team. I came on shortly after, probably about 4 or 5 months into the hospital opening, when I was starting on my VTS journey and looking for a hospital that could support me through that process. And that is what brought me here.
When did you decide to apply to the VTS exam?
I have been interested in getting my VTS since tech school. I have always been interested in that. However, it takes many years before you're even applicable or eligible to apply. So I knew starting 2 years ago that last year was going to be my application, the time that I was going to be eligible to apply. So I started researching and prepping on the skills lists about a full year before I actually submitted the first part of my application.
What do you have to do to be eligible to apply?
Yes. So the application itself, and every academy, I will say, is different. So I'm speaking just to the Emergency and Critical Care Academy. For this, just to apply for Part A, you have to have already achieved 25 CE credit hours, which doesn't sound like too much, but they have to be specifically taught by either a criticalist or a VTS in emergency and critical care. So they are very specific. You have to have 6,000 hours worked solely in emergency medicine, and all 6,000 hours have to be as a registered veterinary technician, and they have to be over the span of 3 years, which is kind of nice because they put value in work-life balance. So you can't claim any more than 40 hours a week worked. And then for the Part A of your application as well, you need 2 reference letters written by either a VTS in emergency or by a doctor that's a criticalist or is a member of VEX.
And what does this certification mean for you and your patients?
I would say the certification for me is my ticket to longevity in this career. I love what I do. I'm very passionate for what I do, and I know that my body is not going to be able to be a technician working the way I do forever. So I'm hoping that this will open doors for me in the education side of things. I love to teach and I would love to lecture. So I'm hoping that, one day that this will open those opportunities for me.
Oh, that's fantastic. A
Yeah.
different way to look at things, and I like
Yeah.
that.
And as far as my patients, just having such a great understanding of why we do what we do and how to best monitor and care for our critical patients, I think is just another way for me to provide the best care that I can.
What did you have to do to first start this process? You told us about what you have to have before you can even apply, but how do you first start the process of applying to take the test?
Yes, so the application is, or the process is set into three parts. So part A is kind of what I described to you already, is where I have to submit those CE credits. I have to submit proof of licensure and proof of work history to say that I did work the 6,000 hours of solely emergency and critical care. And the reference letters are all submitted at the same time. So usually that is all due somewhere around, I think, March, and they have about a month until they tell you if you passed part A. So they'll review all of your stuff. And I will say the applications are you have to follow instructions very closely. The way you upload documents, the way you label your files is all very important. If you upload it as a PDF and it was supposed to be a different format, they won't even be opened. So you just have to be really critical with your attention to detail. So I did submit all of part A last year, and I did get accepted for part A. You then have 1 calendar year to work on part B of your application. And that is the hard part. That consists of 75 case logs that you have to document exactly what you have done to influence the care of your patients. And then you have to submit 4 case reports that are 4 reports that are like 5 pages long, where you get to talk about the disease process and what you did and all the skills you've performed. And then the third part of part B is the skills list. So every academy has their own skills list, and for emergency and critical care, there are 38 skills, and you have to have mastered 29 of the 38 skills and upload photos of the skills that you did to prove that you have mastered them.
Can you give us some examples of what is included on the skills list?
Oh, absolutely. So, like I said, there's 38 skills lists items, and I only have to master 29 of them, because depending on what state you work in or what hospital you work in, some of these skills might actually not be permitted to be performed by licensed veterinary technicians. I will say, though, in the state of Maryland and in this hospital, I have been allowed to do these procedures, which is very exciting. So they range in a wide variety of skills, from just being able to recognize normal heart sounds and lung sounds with a stethoscope, being able to perform all aspects of CPR, all the way to placing central venous catheters and arterial catheters, as well as doing procedures such as a thoracocentesis or abdominocentesis. So it's very fun and exciting to get to do these skills. And like I said, some of them require photos, which have to be done very specifically. You cannot include any identifying features of the animals. So it's literally just a snapshot of the skill itself.
This is really intense. I mean, there is so much that goes into this that,
So much work.
yeah, yeah. So, like you said, a core part of this application includes the creation of the 4 comprehensive case reports and a
Correct.
large number of case logs.
Mhm.
First, what is the difference between a case report and a case log for those of us who don't know that?
Sure. So a case log is basically a basic breakdown of what you did on a case. So every case that I had, I kept a Google Doc sheet just to stay organized. And I would have my admit date, discharge, outcome, disease process, what they were diagnosed with. And then I had to keep a list of every single thing that I personally did for that patient. So if a patient had something done, but I wasn't the one to personally do it, I cannot include it in the log. So it would be like assessment, TPR, administered blood transfusion, monitored for adverse reactions, any medications that I administered, any technical skills that I performed, placed IV catheter, placed central line, whatever it is that I did would all be in there. And you are very limited on your character count, and you're also limited on your abbreviations. So it makes it very tricky when you have patients that have been in the hospital for over a week. And I mean, I've done so much, but I have to pick and choose what I want to include in the logs to best show my advanced skill set.
And then the case report, what is that?
So the case report is actually kind of like an essay that I get to write that's 5 pages long, where I get to start from presentation, how they came to the hospital, what they were diagnosed with, and I get to go in depth in the disease process itself and talk about why we monitor for what we monitor, the potential adverse effects of any medications or treatments that we do, all of it. And then you also have to cite your sources very specifically as well. So these reports, oh my goodness, took me a lot of time. I'd say just from having these patients in the hospital is like a full week usually. And then my rough draft would take me about a month to get it in order. And then I submitted my rough drafts to my mentors who would look over it and then give it back to me. And then I was looking at another month of revisions and corrections. And so, I mean, 4 case reports, they each take about 2 months to write and get,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and that was one of my questions, how many hours do you believe went into developing each
Oh
report?
my goodness. So many. It took a lot of time and a lot of effort.
Yeah, yeah. And you tackled all of this while working full time, am I correct?
Yes, and I will say partner has been great because a lot of what I do at work is kind of studying for my reports and studying for, one day the test. So I was able to do it all at the same time. I mean, obviously many hours were logged outside of work as well working on all of this, but it does kind of go hand in hand.
How do you choose which case reports or cases to develop into reports?
That is so tricky, because I really wanted my case reports to have it all. I wanted it to be a case report that had a disease process that I could really take time to discuss. I wanted it to have advanced skills so that I could prove that I knew how to do these things that were on the skills list. And I also wanted it to be a case that I could really portray that I influenced the case in some way, or, my monitoring and nursing care of that patient influenced patient outcomes. So finding a case that has all 3 of those components is really, really difficult. A lot of times you're not going to have cases that have all of that. So it took me, oof, by the time I got my 4th case, I think I was only like 2 months away from the deadline and I was sweating.
Wow, yeah, that does I didn't even think about that, but
Yeah,
yeah, you
because in the
have to have the
ER, you don't
cases.
know what's going to come in the door.
Right, right. Yeah, that adds a whole nother layer to
Hmm.
the intensity of this, doesn't it?
It sure does.
Yeah. When you spoke earlier, you said that your mentors, take a look at everything. Are your mentors part of partner?
I have mentors that are in and outside of partners.
Mhm.
So I will give props to Heather Carter. She has been outstanding helping me get through this process. She brings an attention to detail and has a writing capability that I just didn't have. So I think looking at my first report that I wrote and then having her guidance and looking at the last report that I wrote, I really grew a lot. So I owe her that. Dr. McCorkle was very helpful as far as going through my case reports and looking through, making sure what I was saying was correct and I was understanding these textbooks correctly. And then I have a mentor as well who is a VTS and ECC that I know from another work experience who also met with me monthly to go through my reports and logs.
That's nice. I think in listening to this, it sounds like having those mentors and having people help you get through this process is really important.
It's so important. And I really owe it to them. They really helped me and grounded me through this process because I was also just a stress bucket throughout the whole thing. So
What happens from there? What is the next step?
So the next step from there is you get the opportunity to sit for your national exam. So they offer that exam once a year, usually at IVEX, the Critical Care Symposium. And so ideally, they're supposed to give us 6 months from when they tell us we've been accepted to take the test until we get to take the test. So I don't know how other people do it, but starting in January, I meet with a group of girls that I met online who are in the same process. And we have broken down textbook reading material and we go through about 7 to 9 chapters a week, which it's so very, very much. I feel like all I do right now
Yeah.
is read,
Uh-huh.
but we go through that material together and it has been really helpful.
This is once again, a very intense process that you have embarked on. And I think it's good for people to understand who are either in the industry who haven't yet embarked on this, what opportunities are available for them, but also for
Mhm.
for folks who are clients and coming into the hospital to understand what the people within the hospital, the knowledge that they have and the schooling and the time that they
Mhm.
put into their career and to care for the animals that are coming through our doors. It's a lot.
Yeah, and I think that's another thing is to educate our clients on that because a lot of people really have no idea what we do. Like I said, when I started in this field, I was stunned when I found out the types of things that I would actually be doing. So I even try to explain it to my family and they still don't understand.
It's a commitment and
Mhm.
it's a passion. And
Yes.
thank goodness that we have everybody like you who is going through this schooling and is there to take care of our pets when they need the help.
It's such a pleasure.
Miranda, do you have an idea of how many people have this certification?
Yeah, so I'm not 100% sure, but just looking at the Academy's website, it looks like there's about 600 active members. So I would imagine that's about how many people have their VTS in emergency and critical care. And it is an international academy, so that is across the world.
That is very few for the entire world.
It
That's not many. So,
is not.
yeah. So if the goal, and hopefully you will be accepted to take this exam and invited to take the exam, and you'll find that out in March. If that doesn't happen, what is the next step for you?
Yeah, so statistically speaking, it's not a great chance that I will pass on the first try, but I and that's okay. I have already started collecting cases to reapply should I need to because this is my goal. I really want this certification. And if I do not get accepted with my Part B, I will have to completely restart the process. So I have to restart from Part A, get new reference letters, resubmit all of my CE. There's no like placeholder where you just get to redo the part that you didn't pass. So that is a little
Wow.
daunting, but I am prepared and I have my application loaded and ready to go should I have to do that.
I mean, for somebody that didn't come from a background of, veterinary medicine or
Yeah,
human medicine, for you to come into this and come as far as you have and to take the path that you have is really, really impressive and really cool. And thank
it
God
is
for people like
so
you.
fun. I love it.
Yeah. We wish you the best of luck. We are all going to be rooting for you and cheering you on and really hope that you're accepted to take the exam in March
Thank
and
you.
that you pass and you can move on from here with
Yeah,
everything. And
fingers crossed.
congratulations so far on your journey with this process.
Thank
And thank
you.
you so much for sharing it all with us and letting us know how much goes into this. It's very impressive.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening to Did You Know? Is there something about Partner that you want to know? Email us at letstalk@partnervesc.com. Who knows, we might turn your question into an entire episode. You can now find us wherever you listen to all of your other favorite podcasts. Subscribe now.